Welcome back to Idiots One Podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Bailey.
And Bailey, before we start today, going to do something a little bit different.
What do you have for us today, Taylor?
What do I have for you? I'm going to shout out myself and
Okay.
all of our amazing social medias that you can find us at, because I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but we have a link tree that's in the description of every single episode. So when you're looking at the summary and you're trying to figure out what these two idiots are talking about, click on the link. We took a lot of time to make the link tree. It has all of our social medias: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Yeah, we have a TikTok. Did you know that? Probably not, because we only have 2 videos, but that's not the point.
More will be coming.
And we also have an email address, which is 2idiots1podcast2022@gmail.com, where you can send us any questions, any thoughts. If you have anything to say, really, send it there. If you want us to talk about something specific on the podcast, maybe do an episode, viewer recommendation, send us an email.
Oh, yeah. Any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to send us.
Or you can DM us. That's fine too on any of our social medias. We're both active on all of them. We have a Facebook group as well as a Facebook page. So you can like our 2 Idiots One Podcast Facebook page, join our group with like-minded individuals, kind of talk about whatever you want to that's movie related. Talk to us about favorite episodes. Community engagement's really cool. And then if you would really do us a huge favor, which you don't have to because I don't control your life, do whatever you want, but give us a like, give us a follow, and rate us on Apple and Spotify. How many do we need to be an official Apple podcast, Bailey?
I'm not entirely sure. If I had to guess, I would say probably like 100 or so.
100 reviews.
100 written reviews, but I don't definitively know. That's just a guess.
Well, if that's the guess, then we need 95 more written reviews.
94. We have 6.
Oh, I thought we had 5. We have 6. 94. Thank you. I was wrong. If you want to be one of those 94, we would really appreciate it. You can even say, this was the best thing in the world. It was like butter. Maybe it's not like butter. Maybe this was the worst piece of shit I've ever seen. But if you do that, you have to give us a 5-star review. That's the caveat.
I mean, if you feel like we're a 1-star podcast, that's also okay. I just disagree.
And I do too, but that's fine. But yeah, that was what I wanted to start with. I just wanted everybody to know that we have social medias and you can interact with us. We're not scary people. But with that being said, you ready to get into today's movie?
Sure.
What is today's movie?
It is Midsommar. It is a film by Ari Aster, written and directed, starring Florence Pugh, I think.
Yeah, Florence Pugh.
Pugh.
Yeah, like Pew Pew.
Yeah.
Now, this was the same dude that did Requiem for a Dream, right?
No.
Wait, what?
That was Aronofsky.
That was Darren Aronofsky?
It was.
Yeah, because he did Requiem for a Dream, Midsommar, and Hereditary, right?
No, Hereditary and Midsommar were Ari Aster.
Oh, I fucked that one up, didn't I?
I mean, it's just a little throwback to a previous episode.
Which, if you don't know what we're talking about, listen to the Requiem for a Dream episode and then listen to our 2022 end of the year Christmas special.
No, it's the end of the year wrap up.
Sorry, end of the year wrap up. Listen to the end of the year spectacular, and we will explain why that was put in there and how it was a very elaborate joke that Bailey ruined.
Yeah, I ruined it.
You ruined it. You want me to give the synopsis of this movie?
Sure.
Okay, so Sergeant Howie, Edward Woodward, arrives on the small Scottish island of Summerisle to investigate the report of a missing child. A conservative Christian, the policeman observes the residents' frivolous sexual displays and strange pagan rituals. Particularly the temptations of Willow, daughter of the island magistrate, Lord Summerisle, Christopher Lee. The more Sergeant Howie learns about the islanders' strange practices, the closer he gets to tracking down the missing child.
That's the wrong movie.
What are you talking about?
That's Apostle.
What? No.
It's not Midsommar.
That was Wicker Man, which is this movie.
Oh.
This one. So the actual summary for this one is a group of friends travel to Sweden for a ritualistic pagan cult that they don't realize is a cult. It's more of a commune, I think, is the word that they describe. They joke around about it. Basically, one of their friends is like, "Hey, we're having this midsummer celebration in Sweden. Do you want to go for like a month and a half? It'd be really cool." And this dude and his girlfriend are having a fight, and they go with them. And while they're there, they see a bunch of really weird shit because it's a cult.
I mean, it could just be different cultures, but if we want to refer to them as a cult, that works too.
I mean, there's a lot of singing and dancing and white robes.
Yeah, and stuff that appears ritualistic. I understand how it could be perceived as a cult, but it's just like a different culture, man. Be open-minded.
I'm being open-minded to the cult practices. But no, that's the actual movie. Sorry, I thought it would be funny to basically call this Wicker Man because this is Wicker Man in Sweden.
I mean, I understand why you might think that. It's a little bit different, though.
Have you seen the original Wicker Man?
Not in a very long time.
Yeah. Rewatch it. But anyway, with that being said, what did you give this movie on a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 being absolute garbage, 3 being an average movie, and 5 being the best thing you've ever seen?
Wouldn't 2.5 be an average movie since it's in the middle of the scale?
Fuck you.
I'm just saying, Taylor, if you're gonna say things, that they should at least make sense. I would probably give this movie about a 2.5 or a 3. Every time I've watched it, it has been less enjoyable. And I feel like on people's first time watching this, they would probably think it's a lot better. And the reason I say that is because if you know what to anticipate, it becomes very, very boring, which I guess you could say that for most movies, but it felt more apparent in this movie than it does in a lot of films.
No, and I'm right there with you. I watched this movie the first time that I ever watched it. I went home and immediately watched it a second time. I was at work, and I showed it to my girlfriend at the time. I was like, dude, you got to watch this. This is the greatest thing ever. Told my bosses about it. They watched it. And I've seen this movie 4 times. If you had have asked me when I first saw it what my score was, it would be a 4.5. After watching it 4 times and going at it super critical, it is a 1.52 for me. Like, I don't enjoy the movie, and I think that you're right. Once you know what's coming, it really makes it worse. But what do you think RogerEbert.com gave it?
If I had to guess, I would probably say a 3 on their scale, so a 3 out of 4 for them.
A 4 out of 4.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah, that was Thomas Laffley, who reviewed it on July 1st, 2019 for RogerEbert.com, gave it a 4 out of 4, which is a 5 out of 5 on our scale, a perfect movie. Which I can agree, watching it the first time, it'd be pretty damn close to that. But the magic wears off once you know what's coming. For the same reason that scary video games don't become scary anymore.
Exactly.
But with that being said, you want to jump into the spoilers?
Yeah, I don't think that we can really do a spoiler-free section for this movie because of exactly what we said. If you haven't seen Midsommar yet, I would recommend pausing the podcast, renting it. I don't think it's streaming anywhere for free, at least not on U.S. streaming services.
It is on Showtime.
I mean, okay, so it's streaming through Showtime.
Yeah, if you don't have Showtime, just get the Hulu. Get Hulu and then add it on for like 99 cents for 3 months and then cancel it. Wink, wink.
Yeah, whatever works. But I would recommend not listening to this episode if you haven't seen the movie, if you plan on watching it, because it becomes significantly less impactful with spoilers.
100% agree. This is your final warning. Can't stress this enough. Stop listening and then come back to this podcast once you've seen it, and you'll be like, oh, okay. Okay, now we can just jump straight into the spoilers.
So what was your favorite death in the movie, or your favorite killed person?
That's a very hard one, because what you said off air when we were talking about this is that there's only 2 that it shows. Well, technically it shows everybody burning at the end. I don't think that counts, though, because the ones that really stick out are the old couple when they commit suicide, which I'm going to call those kills because they killed themselves.
Yeah, hard facts. Well, the second guy didn't really kill himself. He tried to unsuccessfully and then got his dome piece malleted.
Yeah, there was a lot of malice.
There's a lot of mallets.
Play on words. I think out of every one of them, my favorite death is probably Simon. You don't see it. You know that he is gone. He's abandoned his girlfriend, or he's gone to the train station, I think is what they end up saying. But it's when Christian panics and goes into the shed, and he is butterflied, I think is the term.
Blood eagled, isn't it? Because his
Oh.
lungs are outside of his back.
Is that the blood eagle?
I don't definitively know, but I think so.
His lungs are hanging like wings out of his back, and he is being suspended in the air and has flowers for eyes.
And he's still alive because you can see his lungs breathing.
Yes. Which, that one is my favorite.
Mine too. By far, significant margin, absolutely.
The other ones are okay. They're not really impactful. Like you said, you don't see them. And you don't see this one either. But the aftermath of everything, this is the one that stood out more, probably because of how he was positioned, what with the flowers in his eyes. But that one, like you said, by a significant margin is the best. Everything else just felt kind of underwhelming compared to that.
So I kind of agree, but also kind of disagree, because I thought when Danny's family died, it wasn't very impactful because, you know, you don't have any connection with the characters that early in the movie. But the email she got was really ominous because her sister emailed her and was like, I'm leaving, I can't be here anymore, and our parents are coming too.
Okay, pause on that one real quick. She says that it's an email, but it looks like it's a Facebook post. To me, at least, every time I watch it, it looks like she has gone to a Facebook post and they are commenting, is what it looks like to me. But she explicitly says it was an email. It just never looked like it.
I disagree. It looks like an email to me. It doesn't look like a Facebook comment. And when it shows the police or the fire department go into Danny's family's house, and it has Danny's sister with the gas mask on with the tube to the exhaust, you can see that it's 4 new messages on the screen, and it looks like, to me, like her sister has just sent her 4 or 5 emails. Danny's sister sent Danny 4 or 5 emails.
On that side, but when you initially see it on Danny's computer when she's on the phone with Christian talking to him, I think it looks to me like it's a Facebook post or a social media post, I should say. But I agree, whenever her sister's in there with a gas mask on, it's very apparent that it is an email. But I'm sorry, continue.
Or I thought it was cool, I guess not necessarily impactful because you don't have any feelings for the characters yet. But I thought it was cool, like the gas mask and the tubing running through the house, and how she basically killed her parents by gassing them while they were asleep.
And then turbo gassed herself with the mask.
Yeah.
But you bring up a very good point. You said at that moment you don't have a connection to the characters, so the death doesn't really matter. Was there ever a point in this film where you connected with the characters and you cared about the death?
Not specifically. None of the characters are very sympathetic to me. Even Danny's character isn't sympathetic to me. Like, it's unfortunate that her parents are murdered and that her sister kills herself, but her character seemed needy and annoying more than anything.
And I'm really glad that you said that, because the first time I watched it, I sympathized with Danny's character. I understood where she was coming from, and it was more of a breakup story than anything, watching a relationship be ruined and falling apart. And I get that. But on future watches, the characters come off as, like you said, very whiny and needy. I don't think there was any character this time when I watched it that I cared about at all.
So the only characters that I would say didn't give me a reason to dislike them were the 2 characters from London, Simon, and I can't remember his girlfriend's name. Connie. Simon and Connie, I would say, to me, don't appear to be bad characters, even though they aren't really sympathetic. But Mark and the 2 other guys, her boyfriend.
Her boyfriend is Christian, and the other guys are Josh. Played by William Jackson Harper, who was Chitty Bang Bang, was Chitty in The Good Place. And then Wilhelm Blomgren was Pell. I probably butchered that name, but
Pele.
is it Pele?
Yeah.
See, I can't pronounce shit.
No, you're good.
But Will Poulter is who played Mark, which I like him as an actor.
No, he's a great actor. Well, I don't think the acting in this movie was bad because I think the characters weren't intended to be liked.
No, and I 100% agree. I think that they're written in a way where you don't root for them. It's very apparent that their relationship is falling apart. It's very apparent from the get-go that there are issues with every single character, and it's very apparent that they are all greedy and in it for their own self-interest. I don't think there was one redeeming characteristic of any of them, and they all do something incredibly selfish in the movie.
No, I'm right there with you. That's partially why I feel like describing the characters from Sweden as cult members is a little bit unfair because that's like a real negative connotation. And it's just them doing their cultural thing. And in conjunction with the fact that the characters aren't likable at all, it's not like they're a cult doing evil stuff by killing good people because they're a cult that has a weird cycle of, or I'm sorry, I'm calling it a cult.
See, it's super easy to do it.
But it's a group of people who view life as a different cycle because everyone who dies in the movie, other than Danny's parents at the beginning, die for a specific reason, and that specific reason is so the cycle of life can continue. New individuals born in the village inherit the names of the dead.
Right, and they have a dead tree that's connected to the ancestral roots of everybody, and their ages go in seasons, and depending on what age you are, depends on where you're at in your life, and that's why it basically your life starts at birth and then ends at 72. And I agree, maybe calling them cultists is a little unfair, but that is what they are. But you could also make the argument that every cultist is doing their own thing and doing their own cultural thing, so are they really cultists?
In real life? Because there are real cults, but in this, I don't think that it's a cult. It's just a weird culture.
Well, no, because so you said the only people that didn't deserve to die or were not necessarily bad were Danny's parents, right?
Well, they could have been bad,
but we don't know that. Well, what about Simon and Connie?
Well, okay, so when I say deserve to die, I'm not saying. I don't mean deserve like, oh, fuck them, they should die.
I am. They all deserved to die.
What I'm saying is deserve to die or their death had a purpose because the reason that Simon and Connie died was because of the life cycle that this village believed in.
Right. It was a sacrifice to their god.
They weren't annoying or rude or disrespectful like the rest of the group, like Pele's friends or Danny's friends.
No, I mean, you could say they were Pele's friends, but he makes a very interesting comment that I think sets up the whole movie when they're all sitting around when they first get there. And there's the line of girls going back and forth, dancing or whatever. And Mark says, "Can anybody join in on that one?" And he looks at him and goes, "Well, you're an American. Just shove your way in there." I felt like that was a clue as to his intentions. It was subtle, but it also sets up the fact that these people will do that in the stereotypical, I guess, American fashion of just inserting yourself into other people's things. The girls are fine. They're doing their thing. They're having fun with it. And then Mark decides, they're pretty hot. I'm going to see if I can fuck one of them by inserting myself into their game of whatever.
I don't know. That's one thing I do like about this movie a lot. And I think that it's part of the reason why my score is as high as it is I felt like everything in this movie was very well planned. Like it was written super well and the actors did a good job. It was just kind of boring because the tapestries that show the rituals.
The tapestries that spell out the entire movie.
Exactly, because it shows the ritual that was done to Christian where he ate the girl's pubes and then drank her period blood.
The love ritual.
I mean, I don't think love is a word. I think it's I think it's supposed to be a spell because in the tapestry it shows like the swirly hypnotized eyes,
which is the drugs that they gave him basically that put him to be super susceptible to suggestion. It was like a hypnotic trance.
So what do you think of his sex scene or his rape scene? Because he was definitely getting raped.
Oh yeah, 100%. He was not consenting to that at all. It was one of those things where it was weird.
Yeah.
The as they're doing it, like as he's thrusting. And then the fact that after he comes, she just starts rocking back and forth and is like, I can feel it. Little weird. The whole impregnation ritual and having however many naked women singing and watching you as you do it. Interesting.
At one point, one of them even gets behind him and is pushing his ass to help him thrust.
Yeah, that's weird.
No, it's super strange.
It's like, oh yeah, we're going to watch you, but then we're going to join in without joining in because we're going to help you. So I'm going to grab your ass and just push. Push, baby, push.
So one interesting thing about that, or I guess it might not be interesting, but funny, is I was watching this with my roommate, and he was like, man, this is weird as fuck. Because he started paying attention, I guess, during that scene.
That is a horrible time to start paying attention.
Yeah, it reminded me of a time when I was a few years younger, and I was watching True Blood, and there was a sex scene on, and I had a random person come over to the house, and they were like, oh, you're watching porn in the living room? And I was like, what? No, it's True Blood. And it's just like the difference of perspective, because I was watching it, and I understand how it's weird, but my brain wasn't like, oh, this is weird as fuck. What the fuck? But the second he noticed it, he was like, oh my God, what the fuck is happening? What the fuck? And I was just like, it's okay, buddy. Don't stress.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And then Danny's overreaction.
I really do not like her reactions to anything in this movie because everything is so blown out of proportion. Immediately with like, okay, and this is gonna make me a huge asshole, but even when her parents die and then she picks up the phone and he goes, what's wrong? She's like,
no.
And then that whole scene where she catches him fucking the girl and goes into the house with all the other women and they do the
even before that, immediately after seeing it, she just hysterically starts crying and screaming and then throws up.
She vomits.
Imagine seeing someone cheating on you and being so upset. Like, I understand being upset, but being so upset that your first reaction is, oh, I'm going to hysterically cry for about 6 minutes and immediately vomit because I'm so upset. Like, come on, bro.
Well, and I guess you could tie that into the symbolism of the movie being that she's in a weak character and needs him most of the time. That's why she's complaining to her other friend or her therapist, which could be her friend. It doesn't matter. That he's going to break up with her. She just knows it. She's really worried about it. She wants to keep him. And she feels guilty about that. And then seeing him do that breaks that spell and puts her in the driver's seat as a strong, independent woman, which allows her to be able to sacrifice him to their gods. Because that is why they did that. Well, for fertility reasons as well. But also because they knew that if she saw that, she would pick him.
Oh, absolutely. That was all planned. That's another thing I really like about this movie that ties into it being well written.
No, it's extremely well written.
Everything is so foreshadowed, and there are so many scenes that clearly show what's going to happen next, both in dialogue and in members of the community being dodgy or using strained lines, that if you read into a little bit more, you're like, oh, fuck, this is what's being foreshadowed.
Well, yeah, and the entire plot of the movie is foreshadowed with the tapestry at the very beginning. If you look at the tapestry and you know what to look for, the entire movie is played out, which is cool. Love the foreshadowing in this movie. It, again, I think your second time viewing it is probably almost as good as the first, but any time after that, because you catch things like that. It has the newness hasn't worn off yet, and you're getting those Easter eggs, but it's not something like Get Out, where it was very well written, and there are those Easter eggs that still pop up. And even if you know what to expect, it's still okay. It's still good. And I don't know what the difference is between those two movies, because I know what to expect in this movie, and it's just long, drawn out, boring, May Queen. Yay.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, because I've seen this movie about 4 times. I think the second viewing is probably the best viewing as well, because you know the story and now you're looking for the Easter eggs, like you said, and a lot of them are super apparent, so it's easy to catch, and then you get that nice dopamine rush.
You're like, oh yeah, I feel smart.
After that, it becomes less fun. And I think that the reason of it being super long also plays into that. Whereas a lot of movies that we can watch on repeat are slashers and, old movies from the 80s. And they're all about an hour and a half long. So they're about an hour shorter. And even though you know what to expect, it's fast, fast, fast. Whereas this is kind of slower paced. So I think you're entirely correct.
Which is why I recommend watching this movie twice, because I think the third time is when you really start seeing the diminishing returns of it, and it just isn't the same. You'll never get that same feeling again from it. It's a good movie to talk about. I love the symbolism of watching a relationship fail. It's a metaphor for a failing relationship, which is cool. But at the same time, yeah, it only goes over so many times, and then it just becomes super annoying when they're arguing in the very beginning, and he's like, well, maybe I should leave, and it's just, stop being a little bitch, just break up. Which I think he feels like he has to stay with her because her parents just died, and he feels trapped with that one, which is not okay, but people do think that. But it kind of becomes annoying, and then she becomes more of an annoying character, and he becomes more of a pussy the more you watch it. And that first time of him betraying her to have sex with the other girl, I was like, oh, fuck you, you piece of shit. Now I'm like, ah, man, nah, you kind of wanted to do it a little bit, but you were also super drugged. He wanted to. He wanted to break up with her. You can see it. He just needed the motivation to do it, and the not caring from the drugs is what caused him to do it. Because when they're in the pizza parlor and the waitress comes over and he gives her the change, when she walks away, he's like staring at her ass. He wants to have sex with her.
While that might be the case, I don't think that you can blame him for... I don't think you can call what he did cheating because he was raped. You know what I mean?
Right. But at the same time, what I feel like they gave him, it was one of those things to make him loosen up a little bit. He was in control. I felt like he was in control.
You saw him right before at the dinner when he was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, the reason that the background, which this is probably, it's not my favorite scene, but it's one of my favorite scenes just because of the visual effects in the trees and in her headdress. But during that scene, it's clear that he's tripping balls because everything's spinning, the flowers on her headdresses are pulsing. And then when the old guy claps, when he's asked him what's going on, he gets clearly horrified. And he's like, why would you do that? So he might be in control, but he's not in control.
And I agree. I agree that he's not aware of what he's doing, so maybe he's not in control of what he was raped, basically, yeah.
Hard fact.
An opinion-based podcast. I think the story is very heavily, and probably the other reason I don't like it is because it's just a shittier version of Wicker Man. I know that Wicker Man was one of those movies that came out of nowhere and really changed the way that horror cinema is. And you can see its influences on a lot of things, like Apostle, the very first one we ever did, and Midsommar.
It's funny because when you were initially reading the description of Wicker Man today, I thought it was Apostle. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, when I watched Apostle, my first thought was, oh, this is Wicker Man. And it's fine to pay homage to it. I just feel like there are a lot of things about this movie that are ripped directly from Wicker Man, and that might be another problem that I have with it. It uses the concepts and then goes way, 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 way too heavy into, oh, we want to make you the star person, and we want to make sure that this person is sacrifice the strangers. The strangers came here out of their own free will. Okay. Also, Mark's an asshole.
Yeah.
I hate his character. The moment that I really started to hate him is when Danny's on the phone with Christian, and in the background you hear, hi Danny, hi Danny, hi Danny, hi Danny, hi Danny. I'm like, shut the fuck up, bitch.
So the moment I stopped liking Mark was, it's gonna sound really dumb. So there's a scene where they're all meeting up, and it's after they've arrived, and it shows the main party walking to be with the group during a ceremony, and it's before the people jump off and kill themselves or sacrifice themselves. And you can see him hitting his vape as he's walking away.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And the woman brings him the string of strawberries or whatever, and he vapes in her face. It doesn't mention it. It doesn't say anything about it. It's just a thing that happens in the background. And I vape a lot. And I feel bad when I vape in people's face like that. And when I saw him do that, I was like, oh, fuck that fucking asshole. I was like, fuck that guy.
Well, then it really drives the point home when he pees on the tree.
Well, no, he didn't know.
Okay, but here's the deal, though. You talk about culture and stuff. His culture is to, because his thing is, it's a dead tree. Has nothing to do with anything except for I pissed on a dead tree.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, who cares? It was the fact that he just found a random tree and started peeing on it. When so context-wise, everything in this village is sacred in some way. Everything ties to one belief or another. So if he was smart, which he should be, because they're all there for theses, right?
He's not there for a thesis. He's just there to hang out.
He's there to fuck.
Yeah, I mean,
his name is Buck, and he's here to fuck. But no, when he just does his own thing, doesn't care, which goes back to the vaping in the face. This is peeing on the tree, not caring, and then trying to justify with, like, what's the big deal? It's just a fucking dead tree. I just peed on a tree. And the dude's like, put your fucking dick away, you idiot.
I mean, no, I agree that it's very in character, and they both show an apathy for other people's cultures and feelings.
Well, it was the same thing with Josh, right? Which that whole dynamic between Christian and Josh was annoying to me.
It made it feel like it was a different movie. So there are actually a couple different sections of the movie that feel different. And the whole thesis conversation between Josh and Christian and trying to get the book seems super strange to me. But it was really cool or it's not strange, I guess that's not the right word. It seems like unnecessary.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree.
But I think the reason it was added in and focused on the way it was is it gives him a reason to stay. Because he's like, oh, if I dip now too, they're going to think I stole the book and they're going to like come after me.
But I don't think he wants to dip.
I would have wanted to dip. Maybe that's me putting my personal feelings onto him, but after they disappear, because I feel like he's getting a weird vibe, especially after finding the hair in the pie and the way that girl was looking at him.
But he stayed. He found the love crystal and everything that Josh brings up, like this was under Christian's bed. He knows. This all happens before the thesis, right? Before that discussion, all this shit happens and he stays. There's no reason at all except to set up Josh's death for there to be anything about the book or for the thesis, right? There's no point. Him going and writing a thesis and stealing Josh's idea and writing the exact same thesis over the exact same thing using the exact same book is stupid. And I think it sets up Josh's death and also the fact that Christian's just a piece of shit.
No, I agree.
I think that's the main motive behind it, is just to make him look more of an asshole than he already is with forgetting Danny's birthday, feeling like, I want to do these mushrooms right now, but you're having this trip, so I feel obligated to make sure that you're okay before we do them, and then I'm pressuring you into taking the mushrooms. He's been a piece of shit the whole time. This just makes him shittier, so when he becomes the bear and gets burned alive, you're like, oh, cool. Which I guess was empowering for her. But I didn't like her character and the portrayal of her. I felt like there was this weird dynamic of she's a woman and can't fend for herself. It needs to be emotionally attached to other people.
I agree that they made her character seem very, very weak at the beginning.
Which then she transforms into a quote-unquote badass, I guess, at the end through heartbreak and suffering. And she's finally let go and doesn't need a man anymore.
I feel like using the term empowered or powerful is weird. Because I don't think what she does is powerful at all. She's just a murderer now.
No, I think it's powerful because she made a decision on her own. She doesn't need anybody anymore, because at the beginning of the movie, she relied very heavily on those around her as a crutch. And now she's the May Queen. She's
a murderer.
Not a murderer, because she was able, the only reason that she picked was through spite and malice. But she made a decision on her own, and that's the first decision she makes throughout the entire movie, because the decision to go to Sweden wasn't even hers.
It was.
No, it wasn't. She was just mad that he didn't tell her.
Right, and then decided that she was going to go because he would have been perfectly fine with her saying no. He thinks she's not going to go.
Right.
Like when she actually comes, he's like, "Oh, fuck me." Because he had no intention of her coming.
No, not, and he even says that. He's like, she's not going to say no, but just pretend like it was your idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, she made the decision to go.
No, she didn't make the decision.
What do you mean? How'd she get there then?
She wanted to be with him.
So she made the decision to fucking go.
Not
Why
out
are
of her
you
own,
arguing about this?
not out of her own accord, on her own free will.
What do you...
I think that was the first decision that she truly made, because everything else was, she was upset because her parents had just died. She felt like she was losing touch with Christian, which she was, don't get me wrong. And because of that longingness and feeling like she's losing everybody around her, she wanted to go on this trip to Sweden to patch things up and make it work. She was relying on him for her happiness. And then when he fucks another girl and impregnates her, apparently, theoretically, it becomes one of those things of, oh, fuck you, I'm my own person now, I'm the May Queen, and I'm covered with flowers, so I can tell you that you must die.
But she made the first decision too.
No, she didn't.
Okay.
No, she didn't.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't like the way they did her character. I feel like she could have been much better.
I agree she could have been a more likable character. For the intent, I think her character was done just fine.
No, and for the intent on all of them, they were done just fine. They served their purpose, and there wasn't a single character in there that, out of the main characters, let me say, there wasn't a single main character where I was kind of rooting for them. You can say that the villagers didn't know what they were doing. The cult members, compound people, the Swedes of Midsommar didn't know what they were doing, or maybe it was their culture. They're just naive to the whole thing. You could, I don't know, justify a little bit of their behavior. Can't really justify the behavior of everybody else. Josh stealing a book, Mark pissing on a tree, Josh and Mark inserting themselves into ritualistic things for no apparent reason except for that they want to. Christian forgetting Danny's birthday and then trying to make it up by getting her a muffin with a candle on it and trying to light it, failing and saying, "Oh, do you think I forgot? Sorry, I got fucked up because it's still daylight outside. I thought it was yesterday." That was the excuse he gave, but he forgot.
Right. I mean, the thing is, dude, none of those things that you mentioned are reasons to die.
I mean, they're all shitty people. They're all shitty people that got sacrificed for the greater good. Moving on. But so we've done a lot of shitting on this.
I'm trying really hard not to because I don't think it's as bad as you're trying to make it sound.
I've just seen it so many times that I'm like, fuck. But what's your favorite part of the movie? Like, this could be a scene, it could be dialogue, anything. Just your favorite part or parts of the movie.
So my absolute favorite part of the movie is right after Danny becomes May Queen and she's sitting at the table, and it's during the feast when Christian's tripping balls, and you can see the flower on her head pulsating, and you can see the trees like swirling like Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night, and it's a beautiful scene. The whole, it's like a 5 or 6 minute sequence. I fucking love that 5 or 6 minute sequence, and that's by far my favorite, probably.
And I agree. The part of this movie that I really enjoy are the shots and the visuals. The story is kind of The first time it's amazing. Second time, oh yeah, it's pretty good. Every time after that, But I agree. The first time that you really see the trippy visuals is when she's tripping balls on the mushrooms and her hand has become one with the grass and it's growing on top. That was a really cool visual. I really enjoyed that one. I enjoyed the feast scene. I really enjoy when her flowers are spinning more than anything because it's very trippy. But I will say my favorite scene is the mirror shot, because you know how I am with mirror shots.
Yeah.
It's my favorite fucking scene. I don't know if there's like a technical term for that, but I always call it the mirror shot. And that's when, right when the door, they're at Christian, or they're not. Whose apartment are they at?
I believe that they are at Danny's apartment because Christian, after that, says, "I'm just going to go home."
Okay, because she shows up, and I didn't think it was hers.
I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it is hers, but I don't definitively know.
They're at somebody's apartment, and Danny knocks on the door, and he gets up and says, "Oh, hey, by the way, told Danny she could come on this trip, and Yeah. This is when they're all sitting in the living room, and he walks to the door, and then he turns around and he's off camera, but his reflection is in the mirror that is behind the couch on top, and you can see him talking, but he's not visible. And he's saying, "Hey, I told Danny that she could come on this trip. Pretend like it was your guys' idea. She'll feel bad. She's not gonna say yes, but just humor me, right?" And then he opens the door. You can see the light. You can see her walk in, all off camera, just in the reflection of the mirror. And they have a whole conversation where the camera sits still and they're talking to each other where they're off screen but still being reflected in the mirror. You're just shaking your head at me.
We're thinking of two different scenes because I remember that scene too, kind of, but that's not that's not where I remember it happening. So the way I remember it happening, and I could be entirely wrong, is Danny shows up at the apartment after, they talk about it, but this scene happened before that. Because the scene where they're all sitting around at the apartment and Josh is reading and Mark's on the laptop and Pele's just hanging out drawing.
Yeah, that's the scene I'm talking about.
So the scene that I was thinking of happens right before that. And it's when Danny comes and she's standing in the doorway and they're talking about her going, and it's right before she fully walks in and is like, "No, I'm not trying to fight with you. I just want to know. You don't have to apologize. I'm not mad." You know what I mean? I thought that's the scene with the mirror shot.
I thought that was when they fight, when they go back to Danny's apartment. No, those are two different scenes. That happens before the shot. You are correct. And I believe that happens immediately before the mirror shot.
Okay. It's just me misremembering, I guess.
Yeah. Well, because it's nighttime, they go in there and they have this argument and fight about it, and he's like, "Well, I should just leave." And she said, No, stay. I don't mind you going, blah, blah, blah. And then the next scene is them sitting around him saying, "Oh, hey, by the way, that's her."
So if that's where the mirror shot happens, then it's at someone else's apartment, not Danny's.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Then you said Danny's and really threw me off.
Well, it's because we were talking about two different scenes.
Okay. I'm glad we cleared that up for our audience.
Yeah, I'm glad that we cleared that up for ourselves, so I'm not sitting over here thinking, "Man, Taylor's a dumb bitch. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about."
Oh, you mean like how Darren Aronofsky directed this movie?
Yo, that's the only reason I said something, because I don't want there to be a joke that I don't understand as a joke and me just miss it.
I will never do that again, I promise.
You tried to do that today.
How did I try to do it today?
When you were reading the Wicker Man description. I was like, "Oh no, fucking Taylor doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about." That's like reading the wrong movie description. Didn't even watch it. Holy shit.
I thought, yeah, then you interrupted me and I'm like, "Oh, fuck you."
Yeah.
It was funny though. I thought you were going to let me I thought you knew that one and you're going to let me do the entire thing. And then as soon as I was done, you're going to look at me and be like, "That's not the movie." And I said, "Oh, yeah, you're right. That's the plot of Wicker Man, which is basically this movie." That's how in my mind that was going to go.
Nope.
Obviously. Yeah. Were there any other scenes or anything that was really cool? Because I know that we said we enjoyed the tapestries and the visuals. The visuals really make the movie, but it's a good movie to watch the first 2 times.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything else for this movie. I think that if you've listened to this point and you haven't seen it, there's no point in watching it. And I hope personally that you feel the same way about it that I do. And if you don't, that's okay. You should comment on a post about this or email us your opinion to let us know that you disagree. Because I feel like we probably have different opinions than a lot of people on this movie, because everyone I've talked to about it really likes it.
Which is why I'm glad that we don't.
I mean, I don't dislike it. I like it. I just don't really like it.
And a lot of people really like it.
Exactly.
Which I used to be. And I think that my opinion's super valid because I used to be on that one and then I grew the fuck up. Anyway, do you want to get into the Taylor talk?
Yeah, absolutely. What's the Taylor talk for today, Taylor?
So it's a question.
I like questions.
Do a little thought experiment. You did one to me, I'm going to do one to you. Okay?
All right, hit me with it. Hit me, baby, one more time.
I thought you were going to do hit me with your best shot.
No, don't fire away.
Fuck you. All right, so I need you to use your imagination real quick, okay? And I want you to imagine a man who is brought into an existence as an adult out of thin air, so he has no earlier memories. He is floating in the air. His eyes are closed. He doesn't hear anything. and his limbs and fingers are spread out so he does not feel his own body either. Here's the question. Would this man be aware of himself?
It's hard to say. And the reason I say that is because I would argue that children aren't self-aware, at least not initially. I think that in order to be aware, you have to understand where you are in relation to other things. So I think that if someone was to come into existence, even if they were to be fully developed, like physically, if they haven't interacted with enough people or interacted with enough objects, or if they don't know a language yet, then because of that, their ability to be cognitive and process thought would be very, very limited, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question? I don't think so, for the same reason that I don't think children are.
No, I mean, I think it does. It was more of a question, or the way that I interpret it was, are the body and mind one?
No, I don't think so.
Which kind of lets me know with your answer that, yeah, that's what you think, based off the way that you answered it. Because I agree. I don't think the mind and the body are one. I think that you have to have, because what is consciousness? What is the state of being conscious, I guess?
I think that it's your awareness of yourself in relation to things around you and in relation to other potentially conscious creatures. Because I think that if you were in a vacuum, it doesn't matter if you're conscious or not, because if there's no relation to it with other things, then it's irrelevant.
But then he would be aware of what's going on.
Only if you have language or an ability to process it. Because if you don't, then it's nameless nothing.
Like the way you said that, nameless.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be poetic here.
Being super poetic, man. Nameless nothing. I like it.
That's going to be the name of my band?
Nameless nothing. One with nothing. All with one.
But what do you think?
I mean, it's hard to say. I do think that the mind and the body are two totally different things, so I think that he would be aware of himself, because I feel like you just naturally know. And you take it as an infant, you have to have memories to remember, right? But infants are aware of what is going on around them. They are aware of themselves because they cry. Like, they're aware that they feel something that's discomfort when they're hungry. They can't communicate, but they're aware that they're hungry, so they cry. When they shit themselves, they cry. They are aware that they are in a state of discomfort, and they don't know why, they don't understand why, but they know that this isn't something that they like.
That's fair.
The body, does that make sense?
No, absolutely. I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah. So because of that, the man is aware. He probably doesn't know what's going on, but he is aware that something is going on. If he just pops into existence and is falling, he does not know what falling is. He does not know the action of it, but he is aware that something is happening. Whether he feels it or not, whether he sees it, hears it, smells it, tastes it, whatever. If he has no senses, he will be aware of what is happening. Because something is happening, he just doesn't know what it is.
See, I agree, but I also don't, because I think that there have been periods of time in my life where I wasn't self-aware. For example, when I was 260 plus pounds, I wasn't aware of that. I had no idea. I thought I was like normal weight, normal looking dude, until I saw a picture of myself where I didn't recognize me, and that's the first time I saw how fat I was. And after seeing that picture, I went and looked in a mirror, and I could actually see how big I was.
Because you became aware to it.
Exactly. So because of that, I think that awareness is super, super subjective and subject to change as well. So it's hard for me to imagine someone who initially coming into existence automatically being aware. I think there would be a significant period of adjustment. Even like a child being born, I think there would be a long period of adjustment from, living in the womb to living in, the outside world before there was a legitimate awareness, especially if your eyes are closed. Because there's no way to orient, or for me personally, it's hard to orient myself with my eyes aren't open.
Well, wouldn't he feel the air though? If he's falling, he would feel the rush of air. So he's feeling something and is aware that something is going on, but there are no words to describe it. He can't see it, so he doesn't know that he's falling, but he feels something.
Maybe, but he might not know what feeling is, depending on.
Well, babies don't know what feelings are either.
Well, no, what I'm saying is he might not know what feeling is, because if I touch something cold, I know what cold is. If I've never experienced cold and I'm experiencing cold for the first time, I don't know if I would be aware of what it was or aware of it at all. You know what I mean? Especially coming into something from nothing. I feel like you would be too overwhelmed to be like, oh, there's something happening around me. I think it would just be like, fuck, what's going on?
But you'd be aware that something is happening.
Well,
because you're like, what's going on?
But that's because I'm aware. But
Okay.
I don't know if I would be. If that makes it's hard for me to articulate how I'm feeling, and I feel like I'm talking in circles because of it, and I'm sorry.
Okay, well, what about a child that touches the hot stove? They aren't aware that the stove is hot. They touch it and they don't understand that the stove is hot. They won't do it again because it hurt, and they're aware enough to know that that is pain, that is not a pleasurable thing, so they won't do it again. And then they associate the red hot coils with pain. They have to learn how to do it. They're not aware of it the first time, but they become aware once it hurts them.
Right, but prior to that, they aren't aware. So someone just coming into existence falling, I don't know. It's hard. I don't think they would be aware.
Well, no, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this at all.
No, there's definitely not. It's a thought experiment.
Yeah. I just want to see how you would react to it.
No, I think mind and body are separate. I don't think they would immediately be aware. I think they would have the potential for awareness, but I would argue that most children, especially for the first few years, aren't aware. And a lot of adults probably aren't as aware as they could be, including myself included. Like,
Well,
I'm sure I'm not as aware as I could be.
And I mean, I disassociate when I drive sometimes. Like, I can't remember how I got to point A to point B. I know that I did it because I got there, but I don't know how.
I don't know if disassociating and being unaware are the same thing.
Yeah, because if you disassociate, you're not aware of what's going on around you.
Yes, but disassociating is like, it's like stepping away.
Well, you could argue that awareness would be stepping away from something because you're not aware of it.
To me, disassociating is like intentionally stepping away. It's like you've turned on a movie and you go into the other room.
Okay, words are important then.
And being unaware is there's a movie playing, but you can't even see the TV.
But you know the movie's playing.
No, you might not know the movie's playing.
There's noise.
You might not know there's noise. You might not be able to register the noise. There's a TV on, the TV's playing, the TV's making noise. However, it is outside of your realm of perception.
Something
so you
is
are
happening.
unaware.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Did you like this thought experiment?
No, it's very fun. I enjoy it.
I do too, and I like that we go back and forth. I was trying to play devil's advocate a little bit with it. It's a lot harder sometimes with thought experiments because I feel like if I play the devil's advocate with them or do the exact opposite of whatever I know that you're going to say, it makes me kind of sound like an idiot.
Well, I mean, I don't think you're an idiot,
I think
even
I
if we are two idiots with
Who
one
knows?
podcast.
But yeah, thank you for indulging me with your thought experiments. I like doing these.
Me too. It's been very fun. Do you have anything else for us today,
I
Mr.
don't.
Taylor?
I do not. That concludes our Midsummer episode that was not recorded during Midsummer.
No, it was recorded during the winter. Probably this winter solstice was like a week ago.
Dude, I don't know what the fuck's going on because it was like 70 degrees on December 29th.
Yeah, it was icy. This time last week, it was like 6 degrees.
The wind chill was negative 14.
Yeah.
Okay. The wind chill was negative 14. And right now, it is 54. The high was 71. The low is 46. And tomorrow, the low is 37. The high is 58.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Blows my fucking mind. So, yeah, that's Oklahoma weather for you.
That's your weather update.
That's your weather update. Oh, I do have one more thing. Some very sad news. Ruggiero Donato died today.
What's he famous for?
He is famous for Italian cannibal movies, like Cannibal Holocaust. That's the dude who directed Cannibal Holocaust. He's great old school horror cinema director. Cannibal Holocaust is a great movie. I really, have a lot to say about it. I was kind of upset that he died. Came out of the blue. I saw it, and I was Very upset.
No, that is sad.
Yeah, December 29th will be a terrible day from now on. But, I mean, he was really old. And if you haven't seen Cannibal Holocaust, it's a good movie.
I don't know if good is the word I would use to describe it.
It is the grandfather of the found footage genre. That's the first found footage film, quote unquote. Even though only half of it's found footage. But it's what started Blair Witch. So if you're ever wondering, wow, where did they get the idea for Blair Witch? This movie.
I don't know. Blair Witch was really unique.
It was.
Because they tried to make it seem real.
And they did a very, very good job.
Good old early internet.
Oh, early internet. Shit don't fly today, but back in 99.
Ooh-wee, let me tell you.
Oh, buddy. If you weren't alive in 99, you're too young to be listening to this podcast.
That's not true.
Yeah, because we talk about adult things.
Anyone who was born after 2004 should be listening to this podcast.
No.
Yeah, because 2004 kids are 18 now.
You're still a kid. Okay. And that's fine. But with that being said, this has been Two Idiots, One Podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Bailey. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.